Greetings, my friends. Welcome to No Nonsense Metal Reviews. I'm George, and I'm back today with a gig review. A bit of a roller coaster adventure, this one for me. This was the Clash of the Titans tour, featuring none other than thrash legends, Bay Area thrash legends, the Mighty Testament, alongside Florida death metal legends, the Mighty Obituary, and joined by Germany's Destruction, one of the crucial Teutonic thrash four, and of course a very influential band on not just thrash, but also the formation of black metal as well. And they were also joined by Nervosa as well, who are a Brazilian thrash metal band. Unfortunately, weren't quite there to catch those. But this was a bit of a different trip for me, as I am from the UK, I am British, and actually instead of going to one of the, I think there was 6 or so UK dates for the Thrash of the Titans tour, I actually went to Germany. Took a trip to Germany, to Wiesbaden, to the, I think it's the Schlachthof venue, which was a good venue. So quite a trip for this one. But the story being that this was actually a plan engineered by my dad, in fact, who has joined me here on the channel previously, as a bit of a birthday present. So it was recently a fairly significant birthday for me. So as a treat, he arranged to take me all the way to Germany to catch Testament. Unfortunately, it was just pure luck or no luck that all of those UK dates were either a bit too far away, ironically, within the UK, or we were busy. Couldn't do any of those dates. So actually, we've gone completely out of the country to catch Testament. Mainly, of course, not to forget Obituary and Destruction as well. But Testament are one of my favourite thrash bands, and they're also one of the common bands that both me and my father really do enjoy. They're a freaking great band, but I've never been able to catch them. They're one of these bands that has always eluded me. Although they have come to the UK many times, for whatever reason, illness, life events, work, all that good stuff, haven't actually been able to catch them on any of their previous runs, but finally got my chance. Of course, massive fan of Obituary as well. Absolutely love that band. They're one of the crucial, all-important Florida death metal bands. One of the best, I must say. I absolutely love that band. I have seen them twice prior to the Thrash of the Titans tour in both Norwich and Cambridge. Not Cambridge, Colchester, I beg your pardon, here in the UK. And I'd also never seen Destruction before, and I absolutely love Destruction. They are such a great band. They're a really important band, as I've mentioned, in the evolution of extreme metal, and finally got my chance. Again, they've always come over here and played London mainly, and maybe some of the other big cities, but I've never quite had that opportunity to actually catch them. So this was a really important one. And of course, Thrash of the Titans. This is actually a shirt from the show. This is a tour shirt. It does have the dates on the back, so unfortunately I can't show them off. But also it's quite an interesting choice of title, because I wouldn't personally say that Obituary could be considered thrash. Maybe they have thrash tendencies, certainly in some of those nice chug-in riffs, but to be honest, that's not the point. It is they are certainly Titans, and they're thrashing. So, hey, who cares? I just thought that was an interesting choice of title there. But there's certainly no doubting the thrash credentials of the Incredible Testament and the Mighty Destruction. And of course, Nervosa as well. Great band. Haven't been able to catch them, unfortunately. But we took a trip over to Wiesbaden. It was my first trip to Germany, actually first time that I've been to the country, and overall it was a great experience. Certainly got very familiar with their beers, which was very good, very enjoyable. A little bit foggy-headed even now, actually, but it was overall a good experience, and the show was obviously the main event, the main reason we're there. Flying in on October 17th, Friday, to catch the show. But we got into the venue in time for Destruction. Brilliant. It was a great show. To be honest, it was a pretty short and sweet set of just classic material, but also some newer material from the Birth of Malice album thrown in for good measure. Must admit, I haven't actually got all that familiar with the new album yet, which is a shame, but it's just still quite pricey. I clearly primarily go for physical copies, looking for CDs, vinyl. It's still quite expensive, but as soon as it's a little bit more reasonable, I'll pick it up, of course. But it was a cracking set, although short and sweet, as I say. We've got some classics in there. Curse the Gods, of course, a brilliant track, one of my favourite Destruction tracks, and arguably one of the best thrash tracks of all time. What an absolutely iconic riff. Holy crap, that's just an absolute thrashing juggernaut. So we get classics like that. We also get Nailed to the Cross, Bestial Invasion, and a good scattering of other absolutely essential tracks as well. So a really good thrashing time. I know that over the years, Destruction they've had their lineup changes. They've had a few changes here and there in personnel recently, but actually they were a tight unit. They were up there, they were thrashing, and it was absolutely freaking killer. Up next, we had Obituary. Now, Obituary are a great band live, and they are very, very much just giving you the music. That's what it kind of feels like with Obituary. Like there's not a huge amount of crowd banter and interaction or anything like that. Some bands, they really opt for the giving you the narrative, giving you a little lecture or speech here and there. Obituary really don't do that. They just play you their freaking material, their legendary material that we're all there to hear. Let's face it. So actually, that works for me. They've got their backdrop, plain and simple. There's no big bright screens, no backing dancers or anything like that. No bells and whistles. It's just straight up old school Florida death metal, and that absolutely freaking works in my opinion. And of course, they were celebrating 35 years, well that's what it's kind of billed as, of Cause of Death. Their absolute classic album, which I do have a prop just here, sensibly left over there. Cause of Death. Absolute masterpiece. So for the anniversary, they played the vast majority of the album, excluding only a couple of tracks actually, Find the Arise and Memories Remain. But they also played some other absolute classics, of course, from the Slowly We Rot albums. They played more recent tracks as well from the self-titled album, and also from their most recent album as well, Dying of Everything. So they did a good set. It was a really solid set, but it was largely centered around Cause of Death. And that was freaking awesome, because it is probably my favourite Obituary album, actually, over the years. Certainly in more recent years, I've really grown to love that album a lot. I've always been quite a big Obituary fan, ever since I discovered them many moons ago. But for a long time, for me, the ones that I gravitated more towards were Slowly We Rot and actually The End Complete, because I think that's an absolute stomping, sludging beast of an album. But Cause of Death is just absolutely freaking essential Florida death metal. This album features some of the crucial tracks and some of the best Obituary tracks, of course. But if you take the opening track, Infected is an absolute monster. We've got Body Bag on there, Chopped in Half. We get the iconic Celtic Frost cover, which really Obituary have made their own, and of course they did play that on this run as well. Well, they are currently doing so. Circle of the Tyrants. We've got Dying, we've got the title track on there, and of course we've got Turned Inside Out. So it's just absolute beast material here, and they played excellently. I remember actually talking after the Colchester show, I believe it was, the last time that I saw Obituary, and saying a similar thing. Obituary just deliver the music. They're just there to absolutely hammer those iconic songs home. And they've clearly not changed tactic. That's exactly what they did. There were kind of less pauses and breaks. That was something I do remember from that previous time I saw them. There was at times a few minutes just waiting, a little interlude between tracks. It did feel like there was less of that as well. They were just there. And the whole band was on top form. Absolutely brilliant. I thought in particular, Donald is an absolute drumming machine. He is an absolute beast behind the kit, and he was on the finest of forms. And, not to forget, of course, John Tardy on vocals sounded absolutely exceptional as well. He's got a great voice, really powerful. He's got some serious power behind his death growls and his shrieks there. But the whole band was on excellent form, thundering away. Absolutely brilliant. So it was probably the best Obituary performance that I have seen to date. So then, followed up with the Mighty Testament, of course. Just one of the best thrash bands around. I freaking love this band. I'm not going to say underrated, because Testament, I think over the years, certainly in more recent years, on the back of some of their more recent albums, such as Titans of Creation, their previous album, absolute freaking beast of an album. I adore that album. It's incredible. And Formation of Damnation, incredible. They've been on a very good run, actually. And the new album, which I'll be reviewing very shortly, Parabellum, is a continuation of that fine run. It's a monstrous album. It's a freaking beast. So they've been getting more popularity, I feel, because of these albums, and that's absolutely justified. And I was actually quite surprised by Testament's set list, first of all, because I was under the impression that they were going to be playing a lot more of the material from Practice What You Preach. I don't know quite where I got that idea into my head. I think that it was on a recent run that they had done, maybe in the States, actually, in the US, where they were playing the album, if not in full, then they were playing a majority of it. And they did play a couple of tracks from the album, including the title track as well. But I was expecting a little bit more. But actually what we did get is a real career-spanning set list. And it was actually only in the sort of latter part of their set that they actually started to play some tracks from Parabellum, which I was surprised about, I must admit. However, this has only just come out, a week or so ago, so that is understandable. Maybe they're planning on giving Parabellum a little bit more time on stage in upcoming tours and in future runs. But we did get the absolutely brilliant Infanticide AI from the album, and we did also get Shadow People as well, which are both brilliant tracks. Two of the best standout moments from the album. A couple of the singles as well. So that was absolutely brilliant. Then we got some absolute classics from the first album. We got the brilliant First Strike is Deadly, get my words out, which is an absolute classic. We also got Into the Pit, absolutely beastly track as well, absolute thrashing masterpiece, which actually closed out the set. But we did get some real surprises in there. I wasn't really expecting to hear WW3, World War III, from Titans of Creation, although of course that was a great album, brilliant song. That was a bit of a treat, I must admit, because I love that one. We also got the title track, Foundation of Damnation. They opened up the set with a real beast of a track, the opening track from The Gathering, DNR, Do Not Resuscitate. Freaking monster of a track that is, and I wasn't necessarily expecting that. We did also get some couple of tracks from The Ritual, couple of tracks from Low as well. Albums and tracks that I'm actually a little bit less familiar with, so it really was quite a surprise. I'm a little bit more drawn towards, say, the first 4 albums and then also the latter catalogue. But those albums, Low and The Ritual, I think they are pretty underrated. They're pretty solid albums regardless. But they had a good varied set list, and I really liked the variety there because they played thrashier numbers, heavier numbers, you know, where Testament have been almost on the verge of, is it death, is it thrash? Certainly with tracks like D and R. But they got some real variety in there. You know, they kept it interesting and mixed it up. And it was great. They were absolutely on fire from start to finish. Brilliant band. As a band, they are a brilliant collective of musicians, absolutely killing it. I think that Chuck Billy is a great frontman, and I've always actually been a big fan of Chuck Billy's vocals because he does it all really well. Let's face it. So there's our lineup. Chuck can do his more kind of, let's say, more traditional thrash vocals, you know, more like a gruff shout. But he can also do death growls. And when he does his cleans, when he's singing, he's got a good voice, a really good voice. Eric Peterson on guitars is an absolute shredder alongside the equally brilliant Alex Skolnick. Those are two fantastic players, absolutely brilliant guitarists, and they complement each other perfectly. Talk about legends. Steve DiGiorgio on bass, and it was great to see him. You know, he's a monster presence on stage, just like the rest of them, and an incredible bass player. He's an absolute legend. And then on drums, we have Chris Dovas. Killing the kit. Absolutely bringing the thunder. Of course, he had big shoes to fill after the departure of some of the recent names that have been in Testament on drums. But you know what? That guy's got the skill. And he absolutely did a stunning job up there on stage. It was a great show all round. Testament absolutely just blew me away. It was one of the best thrash shows that I've seen for a while, definitely. They had a good amount of pyrotechnics on stage, but they still kept it pretty relatively simplistic. You know, they did have different backdrops there. They did also have a pretty freaking awesome giant kind of demon, inflatable demon appear behind the stage as well, which is awesome, let's face it. So Testament, absolutely incredible, and I will definitely be making the effort to try and catch them again if I get an opportunity, hopefully in the UK, because, you know, it'd be great to catch them on my home soil as well. And of course, there's the merch. So picked up this little gem, and it's a really cool one, Thrash of the Titans tour for Testament. But I also couldn't resist this rather excellent design. Obituary, Cause of Death 35-year anniversary. So we've got the album artwork, slight adaptation there. Try and show that off. Very cool, nice big logo as well. And then on the back there, we've got Cause of Death, again, 35-year anniversary tour, and all the dates. It's a big tour, this Thrash of the Titans tour. And of course, Obituary were doing their own independent shows around this one as well, I believe, kind of in between the Testament shows. So I couldn't resist catching this one. This is a cool shirt. Glad to have that one. Overall, a great show. 3 awesome bands. Not to leave out Nervosa, but of course didn't quite catch them. But they're a great modern thrashing band. But Destruction, it was great to finally get to see them. You know, that legendary Schmear up on stage there. He's got an iconic voice, a great voice. He's a great thrash frontman. He has an incredible shriek. You know, that guy can really hit the high notes. But he can also do that kind of snarled growling as well there. Great band, absolutely brilliant. And a really cool set. Just classics and a few modern numbers in there as well. How great to actually finally hear Mad Butcher and Nailed to the Cross, Curse the Gods, live in its evil flesh. Obituary, seen them a couple of times before, and they absolutely have still got it. They are just a brilliant band. They are just legends, freaking legends. Their material is incredible. They're brilliant musicians. They're up there, tour after tour, night after night, just doing it. Freaking brilliant stuff. And then Testament. My first show, seeing Testament, and I was not disappointed, not one little bit, because they delivered and then some. So, my friends, hopefully you've enjoyed this humble review, but have you been able to catch Testament on the Thrash of the Titans tour alongside legendary Obituary and Destruction and Nervosa? Have you caught this run? Let me know. Did you catch them here in the UK? Were you at the Wiesbaden show? Let me know. Interested to hear thoughts and opinions of others as always. Like I say, hope you've enjoyed this humble review, humble ramblings about my trip to Wiesbaden, Germany. Please do feel free to like, subscribe, share, comment. Support is very much appreciated as always. Till next time, be sure to check out all of these frickin' bands if you haven't, because they are all essential. Testament, Obituary, Destruction. Until next time, take care of yourselves and stay frickin' heavy.